the 1930s, schools were segregated, which meant that black and white children could not go to the same schools. In the book, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, page 15, says behind the building was a wide sports field around which were scattered rows of dirt gray-looking benches. The white children's textbooks were quality textbooks that were not beaten up. On page 25 on the same book, it states that out of all the condition of books, the white had the range from average to new excellent condition. However, there were some books of poor condition in the white schools, but there weren't as many. White children had the privilege to ride school buses to school and back home. These students were able to graduate from high school because they had more time to focus on their education and did not have to work. White students had educated teachers that were able to prepare them for future education.
Schools for black students were completely different compared to white schools. These students did not have the resources that white students had. First of all, these children had to walk to school and did not have the privilege to ride the school bus as whites did. Some children had to walk to school almost 3 hours a day just so they could get their education. On top of that, black children's resources were terrible. Black children had textbooks that were in very poor condition, and they did not own sports fields like the white schools did. Many black children were not able to graduate from high school because they had to help their families economically. These children had to work in cotton fields, while white students would attend their schools. As Mildred Taylor said on page 16 in the book, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, because the students were needed in the fields from early spring, when the cotton was planted, until after most of the cotton had been picked in the fall, the school adjusted its terms accordingly, beginning in October and dismissing in March. But even so, after today, a number of the older students would not be seen again for a month or two, not until the last puff of cotton had been gleaned from the fields, and eventually most would drop out of school altogether.
To this day, schools have not changed very much. In the book, Affirming Diversity, the Social-Political Context of Multicultural Education by Patty Bowl and Sonia Nieto, states on page 13, Patricia Gandora's research reveals that by 4th grade, 60% of white students with a notably similar pattern at the 8th grade level, where only 50% of Latinos are proficient in reading compared to 39% of whites. Clearly, the gap between African American, American Indian, Hispanic, and some Asian, particularly Laotian and Cambodian, students compared to white students remain very large. Schools are still having the same issues where there are children that do not finish school because they do not have money. Therefore, instead of not finishing school, students are working to help provide for their families, just as they did in the 1930s.
Today, there is no segregation in school. However, there are certain schools that are predominantly white or black. Also, resource-wise, we are still having problems because students in Title I schools do not have the same resources as schools that are not Title I. It's true, we are able to go to schools that are full of diversity. We're able to eat lunch and be in the same class as everyone else. So in the end, why can't we all just be friends?